Turns out the only thing more fake than a pumpkin spice latte in October is my husband's happily ever after with the town librarian. There I was, Peyton Hadley, 42, standing amidst the wholesome, apple-scented chaos of the Harmony Creek Harvest Festival, feeling like a character in a bad Lifetime movie. My husband, Corbin Spencer, 45, the man who could charm the socks off a rattlesnake and was currently being lauded as the Chamber of Commerce's Man of the Year, was beaming next to Marley Collins, 37, our beloved town librarian. She was 5 months pregnant, glowing, and about to announce her engagement to Sheriff Wade Lawson, 40, a man whose integrity was as solid as the Kansas bedrock. The only problem? That baby wasn't Wade's. It was Corbin's. And I had the receipts to prove it. The anonymous note had arrived a week prior, tucked into a bouquet of wilting sunflowers at my shop, Pedal Pushers. For Peyton, it read in neat, almost elegant script. Inside, a photo. Corbin and Marley, holding hands, looking far too cozy for a community meeting. And beneath it, the pièce de résistance, an ultrasound image, dated July 15th, with a handwritten note scrawled on the back in what I now recognized as Marley's distinctive cursive, "Our little secret, my love. Can't wait to tell you it's yours. M." My stomach dropped faster than a lead balloon in a wishing well. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a full-blown, prime-time, made-for-TV scandal brewing right here in Harmony Creek. The kind of drama that makes Real Housewives look like a kindergarten play. For 18 years, Corbin and I had been the picture of suburban bliss. Our house, a tastefully renovated colonial on Elm Street, was always ready for a magazine spread. Our annual 4th of July BBQ was legendary. We were the couple everyone admired, the ones who had it all. Or, as I now realized, the ones who had a masterclass in deception playing out behind closed doors. Corbin, with his perfectly coiffed hair and his booming laugh, the man who'd once told me I was the only woman for him, had apparently been auditioning for a new family. And Marley, the sweet, unassuming librarian who organized the annual Books for Buddies drive, was his co-star. The irony was so thick, you could spread it on a cracker and call it a gourmet dip. I remember staring at that ultrasound, the tiny, blurry blob on the screen, feeling a cold dread seep into my bones. Not just for me, but for Wade. Poor, unsuspecting Wade. He was the kind of guy who still opened doors for ladies and believed in justice, even in a town where the biggest crime was usually a stolen garden gnome. He was so proud, so utterly thrilled about becoming a father. Every time I saw him at the grocery store, buying baby carrots and organic formula, my blood pressure spiked. He was a good man, caught in a web spun by two people who deserved an Oscar for their performance in The Harmony Creek Deception. The Harvest Festival, a cornerstone of our community, was today. It was a celebration of autumn, family, and all things wholesome. Kids in pumpkin costumes, bake-off contests, hay rides, and the grand finale, the annual town announcements on the main stage in Harmony Creek Town Square. This year, Marley and Wade were slated to announce their engagement and the impending arrival of their blessing. I could almost hear the collective ahs from the crowd, the clinking of cider glasses, the saccharine congratulations. It was going to be a nauseatingly perfect tableau of small-town hypocrisy, but I wasn't going to let them have their picture-perfect moment. Oh no. My initial shock had quickly morphed into a simmering rage, a quiet, calculated fury that felt oddly empowering. I wasn't the type to key a car or egg a house. My revenge would be far more elegant, far more public, and far more devastating. It would be a performance worthy of the stage they were about to grace. I spent the last week meticulously planning, every detail ironed out with the precision of a surgeon. My flower shop, usually a haven of tranquility, became my war room. The anonymous note had given me the ammunition. My own broken heart provided the motive. I'd enlisted the help of two local high schoolers, Tyler and Chloe, both members of the Harmony Creek High Drama Club, who were always looking for a quick buck and a bit of excitement beyond Friday night football. They were good kids, discreet, and surprisingly adept at handling a stack of flyers. I'd paid them handsomely, of course, with a bonus for flawless execution. Their mission: distribute special festival programs at a very specific moment. These programs, of course, were enlarged, high-resolution copies of the photo, the ultrasound, and the damning message from Marley. I'd even added a little disclaimer at the bottom. Courtesy of Harmony Creek's most beloved couple. Just a little acidic touch. As I watched Marley, radiant in a floral dress that strategically draped over her 5-month bump, take Wade's arm and head towards the stage, a grim smile touched my lips. Wade, bless his oblivious heart, looked like he'd won the lottery. He was beaming, waving to the crowd, completely unaware that his life was about to become the biggest dumpster fire Harmony Creek had ever seen. The air was thick with the scent of cinnamon and impending disaster. I took a deep breath, the kind you take before diving into freezing water. The show was about to begin, and I, Peyton Hadley, was holding the director's chair. This wasn't just about exposing a lie, it was about reclaiming my narrative, one scandalized gasp at a time. The town square was packed, a sea of plaid shirts and autumn colors, all blissfully unaware that they were about to witness the most dramatic reveal since a certain pop star's wardrobe malfunction. The stage lights twinkled, the local band played a folksy tune, and the microphone crackled, ready for its moment in the spotlight. My heart hammered, not with fear, but with a thrilling, almost terrifying anticipation. This wasn't just a festival. It was my personal, very public reckoning, and I was ready to watch it burn. The aroma of freshly baked apple pie and the cloying sweetness of caramel apples usually brought me a sense of nostalgic comfort. Today, it just made me want to gag. I watched from a discreet distance, nestled between a booth selling artisanal jams and another hawking hand-knitted scarves, a perfect vantage point for the unfolding farce. Marley, the picture of demure motherhood, was practically radiating an aura of sanctimonious joy. She kept patting her belly, glancing at Wade with doe eyes, and accepting congratulations from every busybody in Harmony Creek. "Oh, it's such a blessing," I heard her gush to Mrs. Henderson, the notoriously nosy president of the PTA. "Wade is just over the moon. We're so excited to start our little family." I almost choked on my imaginary popcorn. The woman was a master manipulator, a true hot mess disguised as a wholesome librarian. Corbin, my soon-to-be ex-husband, was playing his part beautifully too. He was working the crowd, shaking hands, flashing that $1,000,000 smile that had once made my knees weak. He even stopped to chat with Wade and Marley, offering them a hearty handshake and a pat on Wade's back. "Congratulations, you two. Harmony Creek couldn't ask for a better couple to bring new life into our community," he boomed, his voice carrying just enough to be heard by the surrounding crowd. My blood ran cold. The sheer audacity, the unmitigated gall of the man was breathtaking. It was like watching a snake charm its prey, then offer it a congratulatory handshake before devouring it whole. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a cosmic joke, and I was the punchline. I caught a glimpse of Bethany Collins, Marley's younger sister, standing near the lemonade stand, her face a mask of barely concealed disgust. Bethany was the one who'd sent me the anonymous note. We'd met for coffee at the local Starbucks a few days ago, a clandestine meeting that felt straight out of a spy novel. She'd been a former employee at the library, and apparently, Marley's holier-than-thou act was even harder to stomach for her own flesh and blood. "Peyton, I just can't stand it anymore," Bethany had whispered, her eyes darting around the bustling coffee shop. Marley's always been a user, but this? Leading Wade on? Making him believe this baby is his? It's a train wreck waiting to happen, and I can't be part of it. She even tried to get me to lie for her, to cover up her morning sickness at work. Bethany had provided the final, crucial details, confirming the dates, the secret rendezvous, even the specific clinic where the ultrasound was done. She hadn't wanted to be involved in the public exposé, but her silent support, her quiet fury, had fueled my resolve. She'd given me a moral compass in a sea of deception. The festival announcer, a jovial man named Bob from the local radio station, cleared his throat into the microphone. "All right, folks, settle down, settle down. It's that time again. Time for our annual town announcements. And first up, we have a very special announcement from two of Harmony Creek's finest." A ripple of excitement went through the crowd. Marley and Wade, hand in hand, ascended the 3 steps to the stage. Marley adjusted her dress, a practiced, modest gesture. Wade put an arm around her, beaming. They looked like a picture-perfect couple from a Hallmark movie, completely oblivious to the fact that their fairy tale was about to be obliterated. My heart was doing a frantic samba in my chest, but my expression remained placid. I spotted Tyler and Chloe, looking nonchalant, blending into the crowd near the stage. Tyler was wearing a Harmony Creek High football jersey. Chloe had a floral bandana. They looked like typical teenagers, just hanging out, waiting for the show. No one would suspect a thing. They each carried a stack of the special festival programs tucked under their arms, ready for deployment. The sheer audacity of my plan, the elegant simplicity of it, brought a wicked smile to my face. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about a public service announcement, a truth bomb detonated in the heart of our quaint, hypocritical town. Wade took the microphone, his voice booming with pride. "Good afternoon, Harmony Creek. Marley and I have some incredibly exciting news to share with all of you." He paused, a dramatic beat, milking the anticipation. Marley giggled, a sound that usually grated on my nerves, but today it was music to my ears, the prelude to a symphony of chaos. "As many of you know," Wade continued, "Marley is expecting, and we are thrilled to announce that we are officially engaged. We're planning a spring wedding right here in Harmony Creek, and we can't wait to celebrate with all of you as we become a family." The crowd erupted in applause, cheers, and whistles. A few people even started chanting, "Kiss, kiss, kiss," and that was my cue. As Wade leaned in to give Marley a chaste kiss, I gave Tyler a subtle nod. He caught my eye, a glint of mischief in his own, and then, with practiced ease, he and Chloe began their mission. They started distributing the special festival programs to the front rows, moving quickly, efficiently, like seasoned pros. "Special souvenir program, folks. Get your commemorative Harvest Festival keepsake," Tyler called out, his voice surprisingly clear. The papers, crisp and white, quickly spread through the first few rows. People took them, assuming they were schedules or a list of vendors. They smiled, they nodded, they unfolded the papers, and then the smiles began to falter. The nods turned into frowns. A ripple of confusion, then disbelief, then outright shock began to spread through the crowd, like a slow-burning fuse. The applause died down, replaced by a growing murmur, a collective intake of breath. The air, once filled with joy, now crackled with an undeniable tension. Marley and Wade, still basking in their moment, seemed oblivious, but the shift in the crowd's energy was palpable. The first few gasps were like tiny tremors before an earthquake. The show was just getting started. The silence that followed Wade's announcement was not the reverent hush of a captivated audience, but the stunned, choked silence of a town collectively realizing it had been played for fools. It was the kind of silence that screams louder than any shout, the kind that makes your skin prickle. I watched, a detached observer, as the special programs made their way deeper into the crowd. People's faces, initially beaming with festive cheer, contorted into expressions of bewilderment, then shock, then outright indignation. The vibrant autumn colors of the festival seemed to drain, replaced by a monochrome palette of disbelief. This wasn't just a revelation. It was a cultural reset for Harmony Creek. The crucial discovery, the real plot twist in my personal drama, hadn't been the initial note itself, but realizing the depth of Marley's deception and how many people she'd roped into her web of lies. Bethany, her own sister, had revealed how Marley had manipulated their aging mother, Mrs. Collins, into believing Wade was the perfect God-sent father for her miracle baby. Mrs. Collins, a sweet but easily swayed woman, had even started knitting baby booties in blue, convinced by Marley's subtle hints that it was a boy. This wasn't just about a cheating husband. It was about a woman systematically dismantling lives and using the very fabric of small-town trust as her weapon. That knowledge had solidified my resolve. This wasn't just for me. It was for Wade, for Mrs. Collins, and for every person in Harmony Creek who believed in honesty. As the paper spread, a woman in the third row, a Mrs. Gable, known for her piercing gaze and even more piercing gossip, gasped audibly. Her hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide as saucers. She nudged her husband, pointing a trembling finger at the photo of Corbin and Marley, then at the ultrasound. The whispers started, a low hum that quickly escalated into a buzzing cacophony. Is that Corbin Spencer? And Marley? Oh my God, look at the date on that ultrasound. And the message, it's yours, M? The words traveled like wildfire, igniting indignation in every corner of the square. On stage, Marley and Wade were still smiling, oblivious. Wade was mid-sentence, talking about their future, their dream home in the suburbs, completely unaware that his dream was crumbling around him. Corbin, who had been lingering near the stage, probably waiting for his moment to offer another round of fake congratulations, suddenly froze. His eyes, usually so confident, darted around, catching the panicked expressions of the crowd, the frantic whispers. He saw the papers, hundreds of them, being passed from hand to hand, a damning testament to his duplicity. The color drained from his face, leaving him looking as pale as a ghost who'd just seen his own obituary. He looked like a deer caught in the headlights, realizing the entire town was the oncoming truck. My preparation had been meticulous. I hadn't just printed copies, I'd ensured they were high-quality, undeniable evidence. I'd even highlighted the date on the ultrasound and Marley's initial on the note. No room for ambiguity. I'd coached Tyler and Chloe on their timing, on how to make it look like a genuine distribution, not a targeted attack. Just be yourselves, I'd told them. Friendly, helpful, and above all, quick. They had delivered perfectly. Their youthful innocence was the perfect camouflage for my calculated strike. It was like a perfectly choreographed ballet of public humiliation, and I was the unseen conductor. I watched Corbin, his eyes now fixed on the papers, a dawning horror spreading across his features. He tried to move, to blend back into the crowd, but it was too late. He was trapped, caught in the spotlight of his own making. Marley, still on stage, finally noticed the shift. Her smile wavered. She saw the papers, clutched in the hands of the front row. Her eyes, usually so warm, narrowed in confusion, then widened in terror. She recognized the photo, the ultrasound. Her hand flew to her mouth, not in demureness, but in genuine, unadulterated panic. She looked like a rabbit caught in a snare, realizing the hunter was finally here. Wade, feeling the strange silence, the sudden shift in the crowd's attention, turned to Marley, a question in his eyes. "Marley, what's going on?" he whispered, his voice laced with concern. But Marley was beyond words. Her gaze was fixed on the papers, on the undeniable proof of her deceit, now being held aloft by dozens of angry hands. The crowd was no longer murmuring. They were openly pointing, their faces a mixture of shock and disgust. A few brave souls even started shouting, "Is this true, Marley? What about the sheriff? That's Corbin Spencer." The festive atmosphere had completely evaporated, replaced by the raw, visceral energy of a public shaming. I felt a surge of something akin to adrenaline, but also a strange calm. This wasn't about anger anymore. It was about justice. Poetic justice, delivered with a side of small-town drama. The Harmon Creek Harvest Festival, usually a beacon of wholesome community spirit, was now a stage for a very public reckoning. Marley looked like she was about to faint. Corbin looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Wade, still holding the microphone, his face a mask of confusion, finally saw one of the papers being thrust towards him by an outraged citizen. He took it, his brow furrowed, and as his eyes scanned the image, the message, the date, his entire posture seemed to collapse. The microphone, still in his hand, let out a high-pitched squeal as he inadvertently squeezed it. The sound cut through the rising din, a piercing shriek that heralded the true beginning of the chaos. The microphone's feedback shrieked, a banshee wail echoing through the Harmony Creek town square, perfectly punctuating the moment Wade Lawson's world imploded. He stared at the paper in his hand, his face a canvas of escalating emotions. Confusion, disbelief, then a raw, gut-wrenching betrayal. His eyes, usually so clear and steady, clouded over with a pain so profound it was almost tangible. He looked up at Marley, who was now visibly trembling, her carefully constructed facade crumbling like a cheap cookie. "Marley," he choked out, his voice barely a whisper, yet amplified by the still active microphone. "What is this?" Marley, caught in the harsh glare of public scrutiny, tried to stammer out a denial, but her words were lost in the rising tide of outrage from the crowd. People were no longer whispering. They were shouting, pointing, their voices a furious chorus. "Liar! How could you, Marley?" Poor Wade. It was a full-blown dumpster fire, exactly as I'd envisioned. A vendor selling candied apples dropped a whole tray in shock, the sticky treats rolling across the cobblestones, adding a literal mess to the metaphorical one. The smell of burning sugar mixed with the acrid scent of public humiliation. Corbin, my dear husband, had finally made his way to the edge of the stage, his face a sickly shade of green. He tried to grab Marley's arm, probably to pull her away, to mitigate the damage. But Wade, finally snapping out of his stupor, saw him. His eyes, now blazing with fury, locked onto Corbin. "You!" Wade roared, his voice shaking the microphone. "You knew about this, didn't you, Spencer?" The entire town square went silent, all eyes on the three figures on stage. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated drama, better than anything on Netflix. Marley, seeing her carefully constructed world shatter, did what any cornered rat would do. She lashed out. "Peyton!" she shrieked, her voice cracking, pointing a trembling finger directly at me, even though I was still discreetly tucked away. "This is all her. She's always been jealous. She probably faked these." Oh, honey, no. That was a rookie mistake. Blaming the victim, especially when the evidence was literally in everyone's hands, was not a good look. The crowd, already outraged, turned their collective anger on her. "Faked? With an ultrasound, Marley?" someone yelled. "That's your handwriting, you witch!" Another chimed in. Wade, meanwhile, had turned his back on Marley, his gaze fixed on Corbin. 18 years, Corbin," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "You and Peyton were practically royalty in this town. And you do this? With my fiancé? While she's carrying your child?" The revelation hung in the air, thick and heavy. Corbin, for the first time in his life, seemed utterly speechless. His usual charm, his smooth excuses, had completely deserted him. He looked like a puppet with its strings cut, a pathetic, deflated figure. The justice was swift and brutal. Wade, still the sheriff, even in his personal devastation, took control. He looked at the crowd, then back at Marley and Corbin. "Marley Collins, Corbin Spencer," he announced, his voice regaining its authority. "I think we have a few things to discuss down at the station, and I assure you, this will be handled by the book." The crowd cheered, a wave of vindication washing over Harmony Creek. It was a beautiful symphony of schadenfreude. The aftermath was a glorious, chaotic mess. Marley, sobbing uncontrollably, was practically dragged off the stage by Wade, who refused to even look at her. Corbin, looking utterly defeated, tried to slink away, but was immediately accosted by a furious group of Chamber of Commerce members, their faces a mixture of disgust and embarrassment. His Man of the Year award was probably already being melted down for scrap metal. I even saw Mrs. Henderson, the PTA president, shake her head at him with such profound disappointment that I almost felt a pang of pity. Almost. I watched it all unfold, a quiet smile playing on my lips. My plan had worked flawlessly. The teenagers, Tyler and Chloe, melted back into the crowd, their mission accomplished, their pockets a little heavier. The Harvest Festival, once a symbol of Harmony Creek's wholesome charm, was now forever etched in the town's memory as the day the truth finally came out. It was a train wreck of epic proportions, and I, Peyton Hadley, had been the conductor. The satisfaction was immense, a warm, golden glow spreading through me, chasing away the cold dread that had settled in my heart a week ago. This wasn't just revenge. It was a public exorcism of deceit, a cleansing fire for our little town. And as for the apple pies, well, they were still delicious, even with a side of scandal. The Harmony Creek Harvest Festival of 2025 went down in local history as the Great Exposé, Or as some of the more dramatic teenagers dubbed it, the day Harmony Creek broke the internet. Locally, the fallout was swift and deliciously brutal. Corbin Spencer, once the golden boy of the Chamber of Commerce, found his Spencer Auto Group dealership suddenly as empty as a politician's promise. His Man of the Year plaque was quietly removed from the town hall lobby, replaced by a dusty portrait of the founder of Harmony Creek. He tried to save face, issuing a vague apology about personal issues, but the town had seen the evidence. And in Harmony Creek, gossip travels faster than a speeding bullet train. His reputation was a dumpster fire that even his most expensive car wash couldn't clean. Marley Collins, the beloved librarian, became a pariah overnight. Her Books for Buddies program was immediately suspended, and the library board, after an emergency meeting, announced her indefinite leave of absence. Her condo, once a quiet sanctuary, was constantly under siege by curious onlookers and reporters from the regional papers. She tried to move to her mother's house, but even Mrs. Collins, after a tearful confrontation with Wade and seeing the undeniable proof, had disowned her. Bethany, Marley's sister, later told me that Marley was considering moving out of state, probably to some anonymous city where her past wouldn't follow her like a bad smell. Good riddance, I thought. Harmony Creek had a way of remembering. Wade Lawson, bless his heart, handled the public humiliation with a stoicism that only a small-town sheriff could muster. He issued a brief statement, confirming the end of his engagement and the paternity of the child, and asked for privacy. The town rallied around him, offering him casseroles and words of comfort. He deserved better, and Harmony Creek knew it. He eventually moved out of town for a few months, taking a temporary assignment in a neighboring county to let the dust settle. I heard he came back a few months later, a little wiser, a lot more cynical, but still the good man Harmony Creek knew. As for me, Peyton Hadley, my flower shop, Pedal Pushers, experienced an unexpected boom. It turns out there's a huge demand for sympathy bouquets for Wade, congratulations on your bravery arrangements for me, and even a few good riddance cacti for Corbin and Marley. My business thrived on the new wave of emotional expression, and I leaned into it with my signature sarcasm. I even started a Truth Blooms special, offering discounts on arrangements for those who'd been pruned by betrayal. The divorce from Corbin was surprisingly swift and clean. He was too humiliated to fight, and I was too determined to let him drag it out. I kept the house, the business, and my dignity. He got his tarnished reputation and the lingering scent of scandal. It was a fair trade, in my opinion. I learned that sometimes the most beautiful blooms emerge from the ashes of a train wreck. Life in Harmony Creek found its new normal. The gossip eventually died down, replaced by newer, less dramatic scandals, like the HOA president's questionable choice of garden gnomes. But the memory of the Harvest Festival exposé lingered, a cautionary tale whispered over coffee at the local diner. I, for one, felt lighter, freer. The weight of Corbin's deception, the suffocating pretense of our perfect life, had been lifted. I was no longer the invisible wife. I was the woman who dared to expose the truth, the one who turned a family drama into a town-wide spectacle. My reflection on it all? Well, as they say, karma's a dish best served cold, and preferably with a side of public humiliation. I didn't set out to be a hero, or even a villain. I just wanted justice, delivered with a healthy dose of American-style, acid-laced humor. And I got it. Sometimes you just have to plant the seeds of truth and watch the chaos bloom. The best part? I finally got to be the main character in my own story. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like a bestseller.